Well. It's not nearly as bad as you think it is on Tuesdays, especially on Saturdays. What's up, Untethered Live? We're going to do the doohickey and the thingy and all this stuff. What are the humans doing?
Do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pic on their profile. Yeah. Signaling their virtues with a pic on their profile. So if you think you're ready, you don't need more proof. Conspiracy deniers are denying the truth. They fabricate our problems and pretend to provide the best solution, but we all know they lie. They lied about the weapons and they lied about health. They lied about the fact that they're transferring the wealth. You should really notice how they're pushing the fear. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. Yeah. Everybody's not thinking clear. Keep everybody terrified. Yeah, can do nothing. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. When you do, you realize that this is their trick. It's getting really stupid now, they're taking the mic. Said, do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies. But no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pic on their profile. Yeah. Signaling their virtues on their profile. Hey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sasquatch Shills for Sasquatch Shills, so you don't have to today. Yes, today. I have a gentleman backstage with me that does quite excellent videos. I'm actually really surprised he showed up, because I'm not sure I would have showed up for me because I look like a hobo. But we've got Poopy Archeology backstage. What's up, bud?
Hey,
all right, so this is the part of the show where you basically just tell everybody what your channel is about.
Great. Yeah. So, hi. Yeah, this is Poopy Archeology. I'll go ahead and explain the name right now. I'm an archaeologist who studies fecal molecules kind of as my day job. And I started to make videos about that, but no one watched them. So I kind of branched into other things that I just am interested in. So general archaeology, geology, human evolution, that sort of stuff. And yeah, but I kept the name. So a lot of the stuff really has nothing to do with poop, but yeah, it kind of is something that is a conversation starter, maybe. So
it certainly is. I've mentioned it to several people, and everybody immediately wants a link. Oh yeah, I'm talking to Poopy Archeology tonight. What? You're doing what? Yeah, no, he's got a YouTube channel. He looks at the dank, dark, deep parts of the archaeology world and takes a look at it. And after dark, I've got ooh parts up. How do you feel about ooh parts?
I'm sorry. Uparts is what exactly?
Out of place artifacts.
Okay, tell me more, man. I am not familiar with this
All
term.
right, so there are these things that have been found over the course of history that, for one reason or another, can't be explained, or can be if you understand how they came into being in the first place. There's a couple of things. I can't remember the name of them. They're like Keldesic balls, and they're like these little round spherules that are found in various places in South Africa that, for all the world, look like somebody carved something on them. But the general consensus it was created by a volcanic eruption under very specific conditions. It makes perfect little spheres, and then they get scratched in the general rumble of stuff. And some of them look like little Death Stars and little Battlestar Galacticas, but it's just random happenstance, is what they say. I can't remember the name of those little spheres, but there's also a thing called the Missouri Bell, which was reportedly retrieved from 173 feet deep while digging a well. The individual who took it out of a lump of clay himself, and then reported it to the local newspaper. Was like, we dug this up over there on Old Johnson's well, and there's no reason why there should be a brass bell that deep in the Americas. It doesn't make any sense. It's out of place. Or the London hammer. Have you heard of that one at all?
No, these are all, but go ahead, please.
There's a classic Stone Age hammer, Iron Age, early Iron Age, late Bronze Age hammer that is found in London, Texas, in a coal mine encased in coal. And it's still in Texas today. You can go look at it, and it still has a big chunk of coal on the end of the handle. And the handle is basically just gone, and the hammer itself is in the coal seam. And there are ways for these things to take place, but most of it would require some level of chicanery. Somebody's pulling somebody's leg.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, so on one hand, when you go out in the field and you find something, the first step you have to do is figure out, like, is this a thing? Like, is this an artifact that a person made? Or is it like what you're saying with like that volcano? Is it something that just looks like some little trinket or something, but it's really a rock, and I've had debates like out in the middle of nowhere in the desert where we're trying to keep it cool, but we're like, it's like, this is clearly, an amulet, and another person saying, nope, like that is a rock. And, you're trying to like, and whether if you leave it on the ground, it could be something that, belongs in a museum, right? That's this precious thing. Right. But you first have to get in the mindset of, is this even an artifact in the first place? Which I think is kind of getting at what you're saying. And with the pranks, that is definitely a possibility where people say hey, we found this here, but they're just, they're trolls from like 100 years ago. There was in England, I'm trying to remember the name off the top of my head. What's that?
Piltdown. The Piltdown
man.
Yeah,
Piltdown man. There you go.
Orangutan's jaw filed off to match a human's dimensions, and then a part of a chimpanzee skull.
Yeah, it was like a Frankenstein.
More valuable as a chimpanzee fossil than it was as a human fossil, because we actually don't have very many chimpanzee fossils,
Yeah, I know. And it was tried to be sold as like the missing link, right? It's literally like half person and half orangutan, or and right. Well, that's what they were trying to say, but because it was two different animals put together, and
you got a pretty good turnout coming in here. Let me run through chat.
Yeah, well,
April Green, she gets the gold tonight. We got 007, previous guest. He gets the silver, and TW gets the bronze. Welcome in. Y'all are our wieners. Ajot could be backstage, but she don't love me no more. And we got Untethered Live. She's also a previous guest. So is Untethered Live. Mr. Samuel's in here. About half these people will probably subscribe. The other half will probably subscribe in a couple of weeks. Got Anti-At-Jack, ATL Transparency News. He's having a rough time of it up there in Atlanta. You got to give him some credit for fighting the hard fight, man. We got
Oh,
Kim
yeah.
Maple Europe. Good to see you. I'm Zaxon's entered the chat. That's cool. Make stupid people famous. The year is $59.99. Is that how much it costs, bud? All right. So answer me this. You're sitting around one day studying your ancient poop, right?
Yeah.
When you decide to make a YouTube channel. Oh, hey, Orb Puff. I'm sorry. I missed you up there. My bad. Orby. Freaky Geek, good to see you. Okay, so you're sitting there in your lab, wearing your little lab coat, doing your archaeology thing with your poop. You got your smelly fingers or whatever's going on. And you decide to make a YouTube video. What was that video?
Yeah. This was the first video ever, right? That I made back 3 years ago or so.
And it's not still on your channel, is it?
No, it should still be there. It's called
I may have it up. Hold on. I might have to jump ahead on part of the show here. I'm sorry.
It's something about like
why did people go to the bathroom?
Yeah. Where did ancient people go to the bathroom? That's the first one.
It would be this one.
Yeah. When I actually was like sticking to the name of the title.
So before we get haircut. Oh, you're good, bud. You're good. This is the part. You see, part of the reason I like your channel is because I'm a bit of an archaeologist myself, but I call myself a YouTube paleontologist.
You know about cars? Yes, I'm a paleontologist.
Oh, it's okay. There's dynamite in this bag too. I am a paleontologist.
I'm a paleontologist.
Paleontologists study really old stuff.
Like crackers.
Because bad movies are funny.
Absolutely. Oh, shit. I did it again. I absolutely love that bit. That's from Deary Off the Wall. It's on Amazon if anybody wants to go see it. And this is not just for you, bud. This is a bit I've been doing on YouTube since the beginning of the channel. It's just especially suited for tonight.
I was going to say, like, yeah, it actually makes sense with this.
It's a little too on the nose, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
But I can call it a YouTube paleontology because I go and dig up your first video and I show you how far you've come, because most people don't realize how much they've grown as a creator over the time they've been working at it.
Yeah, man, I have purposely not revisited this one for some time.
I know it's painful.
Breathe, let's do it. Let's just do it.
But it's cathartic. It'll help in the long run. You're not this person anymore. You know what I mean?
No, but it was I was just trying to I mean, like, a lot of the stuff that I talk about is things I've mentioned, like, you know, I've had the fortune to teach in college, and it's stuff that I'll bring up in class. So it's like, how can we rework something that gets brought up in a PowerPoint slide, you know, like presentation, into a video? And so I do like in talking about like archaeology, you know, like the history of the toilet in archaeology is pretty interesting, I think. And that's what we're getting to in this video.
Agreed. So when you're talking about working with prehistoric poops, you're speaking specifically of coprolites? Are we talking
it's not nearly as gross as it sounds. So
I'm aware. I've seen cave before. It's not as bad as it sounds.
I actually specialize in fecal molecules. So I actually don't look at like turds, you know, which are really hard to find. Like, they're out there, you know, you can find stuff in, like, you know, there's a cave in Oregon that has like a 14,000-year-old human coprolite. It's amazing, but that's like as special as finding some gold like object. It's incredibly valuable. Not a whole lot of it. However, there are molecules in all of our poop that are the product of like bacterial degradation of cholesterol. And so basically the bacteria in our gut get cholesterol and they eat the best parts of it. And what's left is this molecule called caprosenol, and bacteria don't want it because, like, basically the good stuff already got eaten, and it will just sit in nature for thousands of years, right? Where the rest of the turd, right, or anything else, it goes away, right? It gets eaten by bacteria, but this stuff will just stick around for thousands of years. So so I'm looking at like test tubes, and like chemicals bubbling in a lab, that sort of stuff, to try to get these molecules to get out of like soil and dirt, and where we can quantify them. And we can say a lot about that. We can talk about changes in human population by the amount of people like pooping. Like, so like if
Yes.
there's a lot of these molecules there, it means there's a lot of people taking a dump, right? It can't be explained
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
one
No, that
person having a
checks out.
bad burrito or something.
That
So
totally checks out.
yeah, right. I'm sure some people contribute more than others. But yeah. So that's kind of what I'm doing. It's not literally poop. And so yeah, so I just kind of started off talking about the stuff I know most about. But again, no one really watched those videos, so I'm like, okay, let's talk about some more general stuff, and that's kind of where we're at now.
It wasn't completely unwatched. I mean, it got 1,000 views.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It just, like, I'm not sure, like, how many people are really
I
like
might be
seeking
looking at
that
the
out.
wrong one. Hold on. Let me look at the right one. Let me make sure I'm actually looking at the right one. Yeah, no, 1,200 views, 3 years. I mean, that for a first video, dude, that's amazing. I'm not sure I've seen one quite that high for a first video. Even NC Tyrant Hunter's first video wasn't that high, and he's got like 200,000 subs now.
Damn. Well,
we're going back.
There you have it, man.
So what you're telling me is the entire earth, everywhere that animals poop, there is this component of that poop that is unaffected by time, weather, or space.
If we're just doing the simplest senses, yes. I mean, of course, nothing's that simple. It does degrade, but it degrades last. So it's like if you're like, like Thanksgiving dinner or something, like you'll have an aunt that brings like some weird bean marshmallow thing that no one wants,
right?
And everyone's eating everything else. Maybe you get desperate and you're really hungry and you have some of that, but it's the one that sticks around longest. So
okay, I got you. So in a biological sense, it lasts the longest period. It's not that it's immutable, but it is the most resistant to change.
Right. It's like if bacteria have any other option, they're probably going to eat some other molecule. But if they could hold their nose, they would do it and eat this stuff if it came to it, if they had noses.
That's right.
But
life will find a way.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But you hope that they don't. And when this stuff gets into things like lakes, and it can get kind of locked away in places where there's no more oxygen in the ground. And in that case, right. I mean, there's been studies that have found it in lakes in Alaska that have been looking at like some of the earliest people coming in that are 20,000 years old. And so that is something that is part of poop that lasted for 20,000 years, which I think is pretty incredible.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really cold up there. It's kind of like in a frigid frozen lake. So Alaska kind of is the place where it would last 20,000 years. I don't think it would last 20,000 years where you are down, in the South there, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I get it. So like Florida is probably full of poop slurry, whereas Alaska is full of poop ice cubes.
Yeah, in a sense, like permafrost, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't discount like all of the Southeast. I did a study at Cahokia, which is in Southern Illinois.
Yeah, I know a lot about Cahokia. I actually did a term paper on it. And
oh yeah.
A bunch of like it's hard to explain to people what Cahokia was before we showed up and just kind of ruined the whole show. Yeah. It was an early Native American super city, kind of like a megalopolis, but different, not like you would see the way we would do it. These were all transient type housing that it would have a population that would occupy between 100,000 and 400,000, depending upon the time of year and who all was in town at the time.
It certainly was like a destination, right? Where
somewhere you went, but you didn't live there.
Well, there were definitely people who lived there, and a lot of the mounds are residential. where you can find houses on top of it. You can find, but there also are things that are clearly like bigger than the city. It's like when, like, you know, if a city's hosting the Super Bowl and you got all these people coming in for that weekend. And so there's huge, you know, they're called feast deposits, where like there's entire, like, just the soil is made up of bones and
It's to
just
try to
organic
serve the food
stuff.
that was cooked over the course of that week, and
But it's,
everything that brought from all over the place here.
yeah, but it's like 100 feet across of just waste from one night only, you know, like just people just, that's a lot of people.
That is wild.
But why I bring it up is,
let me ask you this: while you're sitting there digging through these bits, right? Or rather, you're studying the molecules themselves. How much do you get to know about what these people were eating?
So we're trying to figure that out. Okay, so bear with me here.
Go for it, dude. You got time?
Right, here we go. So I mentioned that molecule cholesterol and how it gets broken down in our guts into something called caprosenol. And I don't want to get too much in this because it's not something that we've figured out completely yet. But a question that we have is, can we look at the ratio of different isotopes of carbon that build up that molecule? Because it's an organic molecule, it's mostly carbon.
Right.
And you know, like the expression "you are what you eat" does show up in the ratio of different isotopes of elements in stuff like our teeth as well as our poop. And so conceivably, it's been shown at Cahokia in the composition of people's teeth that you can see when corn came in, right? Because people weren't farming corn forever. Corn gets introduced coming up from the south, and all of a sudden, there's a lot of the heavy isotope of carbon. Carbon-13 is something that is found in grasses and maize.
Prevalent grasses and actively growing things, right?
Right, and maize is like a fancy grass. You know, corn is that, and so it has a lot of this.
Did a
carbon
whole
13.
show on the birth of maize and where it came from.
Oh yeah.
And all that. What is it? The Tsetsoka? I can't ever.
Oh yeah.
Grass.
If we get south of the border, all that stuff, that's far out of my my knowledge base. But the point is that you can use the different amounts of carbon to figure out, oh man, like this is where we get agriculture, corn popping in, and it's clear. It's like night and day, and potentially, and that's looking at people's like teeth. Now, where we are in archaeology right now is we're trying hard to like get away from being like, okay, the way that we need to get information is to literally like grind your teeth and your bones to a pulp, which most people, I mean, I can't speak for most people, but a lot of people might not want that to have happen to them one day. I don't know. Yeah, right. So how can we do that in a way that doesn't like destroy people's remains? And one way might be doing it with these molecules, where we can look at, do we see the same differences in carbon coming up in these molecules? Now, analytically and methodologically, that's a lot harder to do. So you have to do a lot of like things in a lab to get to that stage, which we're trying to figure out. But
you have to eliminate sources. You have to test out and verify that, okay, this is a source of a given carbon, whereas other things are not a source of that carbon. And so people with this source of carbon would have eaten these things rather than those things. But you have to have the baseline of it first.
And then to get it down to the level of, you know, microscopic trace amounts of poop, it's just, you know, there's so little of it there, right? Whereas if you have a tooth, there's a lot you have to work with. You sneeze and some of that powder blows away, you grind down some more. But with this stuff, I mean, like the amount that we're finding is on the order of nanograms per gram. So that's like, you know, 10 to the minus 9. It's hardly not there. It's basically,
that is nothing. I would qualify that as nothing. If I found that on my floor, I wouldn't clean it up.
But you can find like double nothing, right? You can find like 20 nanograms versus 10 nanograms, and that's a big difference on that
That'd be
scale.
A split order of magnitude. That makes sense.
You know, right? But again, it's you're talking about nothing compared to nothing. But so anyway, so it's complicated. One thing we have realized, we did that study at Cahokia, and we made a population reconstruction. So we said, all right, we've got a lot of this material, a lot of these poop molecules. That's when we expect most people. And you can see the fecal molecules go away, and it corresponds in time to when we think people started to leave Cahokia. There was a rebound in the fecal molecules centered around 1500 AD. And so at 1500 AD, the traditional kind of way of looking at the site is that like it's been abandoned for 100 years. So how do you explain there being the fecal molecules there when it's supposed to be this abandoned site?
Bandit camp. We played games. We know what this is all about.
And what we said is like, you know, what we're seeing is like a different cultural group coming in, probably related to the Illinois Confederation and the people that gave Kokia its name, which were the Kokia tribe that French explorers found. But anyway, point is that big bump, like, I don't think there's a lot of people there around 1500, but this bump is pretty big. We realized that like there's a lot of different like diets going on at that time. So at Kokia, a lot of people are eating like corn and vegetables, but the people around 1500 are probably bison hunters. So they're eating like just like pure meat, not pure meat. I shouldn't say that,
Well,
but they're having a lot of meat.
Portion of their diet is carnivorous.
Right.
It would be bison, rabbit, anything else you could snatch up with a leash. Yeah.
But think about, you know, if you're hunting a bison, right? And that you could eat that breakfast, lunch, and dinner for days. It's such a big animal. And if you remember that, like the molecule that we're testing here comes from cholesterol. If you're eating a lot of cholesterol because you're eating a lot of meat, that might make it seem like that there's more people there than if there's people having less.
Gotcha.
So what I'm thinking now is that
concentration, right?
Yeah. So I think like you can kind of get at diet a little bit, but it's really contextual, right? You have to think about you know, getting into the anthropology of, you know, like what is their way of life? They're following bison, you know?
Can you determine the difference between, say, a fish-based diet versus a bison-type diet?
Wow. So you can, not necessarily using like these fecal molecules, but for that you need a different element. You need nitrogen. So just as in like carbon 13 versus carbon 12 has to do with like whether you're having more grasses versus everything else. There's a big difference in nitrogen between seafood and terrestrial food. Namely that, and this one isn't good. I wish I had my little like lecture slide right in front of me. So everyone don't quote me on this, but I'm just going to go out and say it. I think the more nitrogen is more of a coastal environment and less nitrogen because algae makes a ton of nitrogen in it. And so if that's like the bottom of the food chain, there's just going to be a lot of nitrogen in everything else. Right. So you can like, again, same thing with people's teeth. You can
I was speaking more along the lines of a river type of environment, inland river. Would that carry the same?
Yeah, I think the same. And again, I'm getting a little bit uncomfortable in telling you this fact. So I'm like 50% sure here right now. So take that.
There's not a single one of us here that's an expert. You're not going to be second guessed.
No, but that's like a big thing, man. It's you gotta try, right? You gotta try. So that said, you know, I am poopy archaeologist, and maybe I'm full of shit, but the idea is just those waterways in general should have a different appearance than like the terrestrial type stuff. So you can, I think water versus land will show up, but it's going to be a lot more clear on the coast. Like that's going to be a lot easier to see. But now I'm just like, yeah, man, I'll look this. If we have time, I'll like look that up. We could figure that out in a minute, but we got a live stream.
After dark. If you stick around for after dark, we'll dig into that. I'm perfectly willing to do that.
Okay, if you want to oblige me, man, we can do that later.
This is one of my favorite bits. I didn't get a chance to ask before the show. You did this hominid rap.
Yeah.
And I got to ask you, did it ever catch a copyright claim at all?
No, man, that's it's just using like Apple. I don't know actually, but you know, on an iPhone,
it doesn't matter right now. I'm willing to take a copyright claim. Chances are my After Dark will have some copyright claim material in it. So even if it is, it's fine. I'm just curious in case other people try to pick it up.
YouTube hasn't flagged it for me. It's just using so I made the song with like GarageBand. So all the music is just GarageBand, which I think is like free. I'm pretty sure. So
Like I said, the only thing I'm concerned about is whether or not it'll actually get me taken down during live stream. Other than that, I don't care. They can have every dime they get off me. It's fine.
I'd say go for it, man.
We're going for it. That's what's happening.
Let's
say
do
go.
it.
We're going. All right, you ready for this?
There you go.
Are you ready for this?
This one goes out to all the homins that didn't make it. Sediba, Boisei, Robustus, Africanus.
I love it, dude. It's great.
The Deli.
I messed up right there. It's actually Homo naledi. Like,
Let's go.
I got so much shit from people at school, man. Like, the deli? What are you talking about?
Getting greens, Africanus, Apparendus, Animenus, Raleigh. You no longer kicking it, you dead and I am sorry. Ever since I left Africa, been thinking of you. Your social practices and the things that you chew. Under 5 feet, scavenging that dead meat, fruits a tree, eating tools, so you go beat rocks together. Then you make a chopper, get in game, killing it like Jim Hopper. Stranger things have happened, but I got no why. You went extinct by the Pleistocene and never said bye.
It's brilliant, dude. It's beautiful.
Where did you go? There were so many harmonies all alone.
You get the idea, right?
Where did you go? Where did you go?
Yeah, so
All right, I'm not gonna torture you anymore.
yeah, thanks, man. You know, like
That's
it's
beautiful, dude. No, it made you laugh. You thought about doing this and you went, I could do that. And then you did it and it made you giggle and you uploaded it anyway.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
had fun. I won't lie. I enjoyed it a lot.
When I stumbled across this thing, I laughed so hard. I called my brother, told him about it, was like, dude, and he was like, no, man, I'm over here trying to change a tire. I was like, just put it on and listen to it. Right? And he called me back like 10 minutes later. He's like, what in the world have you sent me? I'm like, it's great, dude. You should pay attention. Listen to it. You're learning stuff.
Yeah, I think like what the F is definitely the first reaction one should have to it. But yeah, in terms of what someone asked, I think if it is cool to respond to like things I see here, like in terms of what, because this is in San Francisco Bay, out in Marin, and anyway, it was just like a cold dark day, and I got my wife, who was pregnant at the time. She was almost pregnant, to like go out and film me like hiding behind a weird log and eating grass. And so
dude,
yeah,
I love it. I love every minute of it.
It was weird.
And tell me you did not have fun making this.
It was fun. Yeah, it was totally fun.
I fully support any further activity in this direction. You have a distinct talent for what this is. This is an almost flawless stuff in the music and videos and learning, and I love it. And she was almost pregnant.
Yeah, almost. We got there. Yeah, so like this is just kind of a confession maybe, but like I really liked Bill Nye as a kid, you know, like, and he'd have like the music videos. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Like he'd talk about volcanoes, and then he'd have like some like early 90s, because that's when it like was filmed. It'd be like, you know, not Destiny's Child, or like, yeah, I think he had like a Nirvana like parody and stuff like that. And I thought, and I remember being like 7 and being like, oh my God, this is amazing. And something that I aspire to, which maybe I'm just getting too big for my britches here, but is to be like do what Bill Nye did, but like kind of like for archaeology, because frankly, like that's not a thing that I can think of, you know, like where it's just silly kind of like talking about the past, but trying to also say, hey, like pay attention in history class, you know what I mean? Like, or like try to make it more fun than it would be in history class. So that's the inspiration there.
Right.
Yeah. Not that I'll ever get that.
Why does it keep doing this? Yes, the stream ended 2 hours ago. I was going to use it, but you suck because you don't like me anymore. I've really got to work on this. I've got this channel that I use as a space saver for some other crap for later, right? That I haven't gotten to doing yet. It's going to be like my Instagram, my Cash App, my PayPal, all that silly crap goes in the window right below me. And the guy who operates the other channel, ends at about 8:30 for some reason. And he'll start up another stream in a minute, but it's right in the middle of my show, and it happens every freaking time. It drives me crazy because I end up with some random stuff over there in the corner.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be annoying.
Yeah. So we're going to put Samuel the Infamous over there, and I'm going to try to get him in here in the next week or so.
Sweet.
Which, for those of y'all who know or don't know, I was over yonder having a chat with them up until like literally seconds before we got together over here. All right. So hypothetically speaking, through your study of the molecules in question, can you determine how old a given poop is, or is it determined by how long it's been exposed?
Yeah. So, I mean, like the main way that we do it is carbon dating. And if you have like an actual poop, right? If you have a coprolite where like there is like the
so we're going to make the assumption. I'm a cave diver. I'm a spelunker, a professional hole digger, and I've gone to the deepest, darkest depths of some secret M cave that only I know where he is, and I found a poop, and I bring it back to you, and I'm like, hey, what can you tell me about this poop? How long would it take you? Like, how much effort would it be to determine, A, is it human? B, if it's not human, what is it?
So the first thing that would be a bummer is that the easiest way to date it is by figuring out surroundings, right? So like, and this is me, like, I don't mean to be like, you know, like naughty, you know, I don't know what but point is, if you take something away from where it is, a lot of, you know, we call it its context is lost, right? So when we date these molecules, we're actually like looking for bits of carbon, so like little twigs or charcoal or something in the dirt right next to, in fact, or just the dirt that we're finding that contains these molecules. That's what we're dating. So we're not actually dating the molecules themselves because there's not enough. Like it just, there's only, as I told you, like just like it's hardly there. So you need something bigger to date. So what we did to get the stuff at Cahokia, for example, is taking sediment cores where you go out on a boat to the middle of the lake where we are looking for this. The idea is that these molecules are going to collect somewhere. So you look for a low point on the land, like a lake or a pond, and you go to like yeah, exactly. So you go to the middle of the lake, you put out, you know, a coring device, which is a big like tube.
Yes.
And
a big tube, just like drilling a well.
And it sucks up. And the important thing is it keeps the stratigraphy, which I'm trying to get my hands right because it's flipped for me. There we go.
I know.
Yeah, right. I was like, I can't get it.
You get used to that.
There it is, right there. Yeah, you try to get, you need to keep that intact, right? Because up means young, old means down means old. And and then you can get a couple, let's say you find a twig here and some charcoal there. The twig is 2,000 years old. The charcoal is 5,000 years old. And then you can say, okay, well, let's make an age model where like, what's the distance
between these two?
If it's got to be in that. That's 1,000 feet or 1,000 years per foot, right? So that's how we date it. And now, again, if you find an actual like turd in a cave, again, first thing is don't touch it. Don't touch it. Please don't touch it. And then you can go out and if there's enough material there, you could carbon date the actual turd, right? But for the stuff I'm talking about, you need something else.
That's some mass spectrometry type stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're getting better, you know.
I had a buddy of mine who worked in a mass spectrometry. I'm not saying that right. Spectrometry lab.
Yeah, you did it. Yeah,
lab.
Nice.
And he would come home with all kinds of this paperwork. He'd be like, guess how old this is, guess how old that is. And he'd just show me some random bit of bark or some, maybe like, this is 14,000 years old. And I'll be like, why do you know this? Like,
it's crazy. I don't know. It blows my mind, man. It blows my mind.
No, he was a lab tech. He's still a lab tech wherever he's at. Where are they?
Are you like looking for your friend right now?
Hey, dude, you never know, man. The officer's live will pop up behind me at any second and ask me if I'm feeling anxious.
Okay.
He's one of those guys, but gotta love him to death. I do.
Cool.
Okay. I forgot to do the did I do it? I didn't do it. I didn't do it in here. I forgot to do the poll. What should the poll be? Yeah, no, I mean we can do it right now. We're like on the fly currently.
Wait, who makes what is the poll mean?
Okay, so I'm gonna put a question in. The answer is yes or no, and we'll see what everybody thinks about it.
Damn. Okay. Cool.
So
what, is it your question?
I was asking you if you have a question you'd like to ask the chat.
I do not. In the interest of keeping it going, let's
we're good. We're good. We're gonna see if there's no point in being too serious about any of it, right? Is this a responsible use of our time?
Wait, how do I see it? Where is it?
It's not going to show up in StreamYard because
gotcha.
specifically
It's on
YouTube.
For sure.
I'm operating on a laptop and I have about 14 windows open making all of this happen, Captain. Yeah. So I guess the question is generally is studying poop a responsible use of humans' time?
Okay.
Or talking about the study of poop. I think so. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why I think the study of poop is paramount. I think if you look into the detritus of the old world versus the detritus of the new world, you'll find a central theme that is different between the two. In the old world, people tended to stay put unless something forced them from one area to another or lured them from one area to another, be it resources, better trade, more money, whatever, better food. In the new world, the tendency was not to move because of a lack of food or move because of access to better food, but because that was part of the lifestyle since the beginning. In the new world, you had vast continent-sized food forests and entire plains that had been managed by the natives to promote the types of foods they preferred or found it easy to hunt. They had vast works that were built upon year after year over time, rather than being constructed over the course of 12 years or 15 years. There's some of their structures were added to over the course of generations. And some of these things are almost as magnificent as the old world structures that were built with the intention of housing people. Right. So take some of the shell mines, the shell mid mounds on the East Coast. Some of these things are 9,000-10,000 years old. There's been people here shucking oysters since the dawn of time, as far as the new world's concerned.
Yeah, no. If you look, I mean, like there's a lot that you brought up there, man. So I'm going to try to.
Sorry, I have a bit of a shotgun scatterbrain.
No. So I mean, if we're talking about food, which again, like where we're at figuring out what people ate just off of these fecal molecules, we can't get like that level of detail. But you're definitely right about just the managed landscapes and stuff like that. And what I think is so sad is that so much of the landscape from, as you said, thousands of years of production is just gone. And the hardest part is that, probably most people would never recognize it was there in the first place because it's so different from what, the kind of.
Let me give you a rundown of Eastern Seaboard cloud forest. I live over here in middle Georgia, and we're on the very tail end of what was once the American chestnut southern range. And we have a small town over here named Goat Town, and it had 2 exports back before 1923. Goat's meat, goat products, hence the name Goat Town, because it was 2 families and they both raised goats. And American chestnuts that they would ship out to Britain, and they got top dollar for the American chestnuts, and that was over half of their yearly income. When the American chestnut blight killed off, or the Chinese chestnut blight killed off the American chestnuts, these people were completely put out of work. There were no chestnuts for the goats to eat. There were no chestnuts for the people to gather. There was no liquid fluid cash flowing in on a yearly basis. Once upon a midnight dreary, a man could walk from the North Appalachian Trail in southern New York all the way to the Southern Appalachian Trail in northern Georgia and not have to carry food with you because you could always scrounge a double handful of chestnuts. You could survive literally off the land. When the when the chestnuts were wiped out by the Chinese chestnut blight, it reduced the amount of food in a given southern or eastern forest by 80%. 1 in 4 trees was an American chestnut tree of old growth proportions until the blight killed them. That would have altered the diets of all of the Eastern Coast Native Americans, all of the Bigfoots, the Sasquatches, the goats, the forest bison, the squirrels, you name it. That is a major hit to available food.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one of the things that archaeology can like have something to say about this is that, there's an idea called traditional ecological knowledge, TEK. And it's this idea that to kind of get things right in an area, it's best to understand how they were figured out by the people who've been there the longest, right? And so the way, the American system as it isn't even really maybe 300 years old, give or take, depending on where you want to draw the starting point of where we are as a country now, which is such a small fraction of the history of the land, right? Which has been occupied by people for so long. And so when you're talking about, this whole stuff where you get these catastrophes that happen like that, because people are coming into the land, they don't really know it. They haven't had time to learn from mistakes and carefully kind of calibrate things in a way that indigenous people did, right? They had a pretty big head start. So when you're talking about coming up, and I know things more on the west side, of the country in California, and how so much of the land is just really a product of people eating this thing, not eating this thing, burning this tree, it was really carefully orchestrated such that it was less likely to fail, right? So in a bad year and a good year, it wouldn't matter as much. But, if you just kind of come in, remember that old YouTube video called Leroy Jensen? And it was this
Leroy
guy. Jenkins.
Leroy
that's what it was, right?
Leroy Jenkins.
That's what we're kind of doing. You know what I mean? You just come in, it's let's just plant
Oregon Trail.
We feel like
straight up Oregon Trail. Do you remember the old Oregon Trail video game?
Yeah, right.
Right. So did you ever win the Oregon Trail video game? I have no memory of ever actually having made it to Oregon.
You just got
over and over and over and over. I killed by a rattlesnake, drank bad water from a puddle, lost a wagon wheel, lost my oxen. You name it, it happened to me because I thought there might be a possible way through. Nope. I hear of people who say they made it to Oregon. I do not believe them. I don't think that you could actually win that game. I think that was all camera tricks and bullshit.
Turns out there's no one in Oregon, actually. It's all just a hoax, man.
Well,
no one's made it. It's just empty.
I got my theories about that whole West Coast concept in the first place, but we're not going to get into that. I've got a rum over here, and after we finish the After Dark, I'm going to be putting on Puss in Boots and basically talking trash about it all the way through.
That's quite a plan.
That's the after dark bit. You don't have to stick around for all of this. Whenever the show ends, you'll definitely know the show is over. You can stick around as long as you want. I'll drop the link in chat. Some people will come up, some people won't. If in 15 minutes we don't got some new blood up on panel, we'll do something different. But I've got a few videos set aside that we can talk about until either you have to go or you want to go or you just don't like me no more. However that works out.
Yeah, basically when my son arrives in a little bit for bedtime,
that's fine, dude. As far as I'm concerned, you've already done a hell of a show. This has been amazing. I really appreciate your time. I can't tell you how much. I was actually kind of a little bit starstruck when you answered the email so promptly because, I was like, that's cool. That dude has great ideas. That's real neat. I like
Oh,
that.
for sure, man. No, it's fun. Like I think a problem that archaeologists have is they don't like share that much, about what they're
Yeah, no,
doing.
I get it.
And then we complain about people not caring about what we do. And it's just like, well, yeah, I mean, like, if you know what I mean? Like,
I would love to have you on some other particular show. I've got a few ideas for different shows. I got some tow truck people that I'm going to do some tow truck reaction videos with. I have a particular video, and I don't know if I want to tell you what it is, but it's a reimagining of the Neanderthal
okay.
as a carnivorous ape, as a
Okay.
super predator ape. Instead of being like a human type, with a heart and all that stuff, this is
Right.
literally a nocturnal killing machine that uses a spear. It's not a human type thing. It's a totally different concept. And I'd like to take a look at that with somebody who could actually might have an educated opinion on the concept.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I'll go for it. I've been known to be a buzzkill, so I hope I don't.
Dude, look, we can be just as flippant and just as serious as you like. We can go both sides and make 2 separate videos on it if you want. We'll make it your video, and I'll just do the rough editing. You can do the rest of it.
No, this is good. Again, it's fun to just talk about what people care about, or if you have anything on your mind about archaeology, I just want to see what's out there. Yeah.
I got a couple of people who are part of what they refer to as the truther movement, and these are the very same people who are out here pointing at the sky and saying that that's not space, that's a firmament, and we live on a flat plane and it's on the back of a turtle standing on 4 elephants or something. I don't remember. Is this turtles all the way down or something? I can't remember.
A lot of turtles. Okay. Yeah.
But they've got this Tartarian. They call it the Tartarian event or the Tartarian flood or something like that. They refer to it as mud flood history. And it has to do with the fact that a lot of buildings are built partially in the ground, or the ground has been moved after the fact. And they go and point. It's hard to explain to somebody who hasn't been in the rabbit hole. But it's basically a bunch of flat earthers delivering an alternate possible history. And we could go take a look at some of that stuff. And I imagine that'll get you giggling. Maybe one night when you got some good bourbon or rum or something, and you just want a good giggle, we'll go do that.
Yeah, no, I've probably got a lot to say. And I'll leave it at that.
That's exactly why I would like to do that. Because even if you don't think what you're saying is either pertinent or funny, to someone else's ear, it may be exactly what they need to hear to give them the right idea for the next step in their channel.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Or just want to think about it.
I'll see you next time, bud.
Yeah, no, there's some stuff out there that I'm going to go ahead and say is just like a problem in archaeology in terms of how like what people think is real. And like, that's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I would like to talk about that sometime. What's that?
Like TikTok archaeologists, the people who go look at pictures of archaeologists and have a totally different theory of what they're looking at.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the hard part that I have is like when so I've got some videos out there. I had one that's called I think it's called the 5 most controversial sites in America or something like that.
Yeah. And the Ceruli Mammoth site.
Yeah.
No,
or Cerruti.
Cerruti Mammoth site. That is one of the most intriguing collection of random freaking rocks on the planet today.
It is. And
it's hard to argue either way when you get to the site and you look at the pictures and you take a look at where these things are in relation. It's hard to look at that and go that somebody didn't do that.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like I'm happy to have let's talk about both sides of this debate, because it's a debate. First of all, like if you're to get a bunch of archaeologists in a room, they're going to debate about it because there's no smoking gun. Really either way.
Wait a second. Hold on. Wouldn't the correct collection of the right lithic effects in the right environment to be a butcher site with a butcher animal be almost a smoking gun?
Let's go back out
How about
to
if one of them pooped while they were there? Would that change your mind at all?
if we could find something that's comparable, maybe. But the thing is, like,
all right.
you know,
Bet. I'll call somebody who lives near there. I got a couple of Alaskan viewers.
But even so, I mean, like, animals make a small amount of this molecule. So the point is, it's complicated. And where I hold back on that site is a couple things. One is that 130,000 years ago around the world, we had some pretty complex tools that were being made.
Right.
You know,
No, I
people
get
were
what
making-
you're saying. But it would
people
also
had been-
point towards the idea of it being not necessarily a modern human and the complicated tools that they're using, but more of a primitive human and their less lithically advanced technologies.
That's definitely a possibility. But what I'm trying to say here is that to a smoking gun, if you were to, like, you know, find like an Acheulean hand axe there, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd say that there are people here 130,000 years ago, and I'm dead sure of it.
Right.
When you look at these are stones, and they're rocks, and the
Right.
idea is that they were used once to butcher an animal, right?
This one, the one that's still laying there.
Yeah. And the idea is, it's like, you know, some hominin, right? Whether it's Homo sapiens or we don't know. That's another thing too. Is like, if you found, like, you know, like the burial, that would be the smoking gun.
The gap
But
is
the idea is that one side of the rock might have been worked. Now, I've done some lithic analysis on ground stone, and the idea is that you're looking for little chips of minerals that are like popped out. It's really subtle stuff. So the question is, like, are these rocks, had they just banged into each other? Because you can get the same effect by just having rocks bang into each other, right? So again, I truly believe that the Cerruti site is something we should talk about, but neither is it a smoking gun. The thing is, when I start having like these sort of things, I'm like, look, like, man, like, there's a lot of subtlety to this. You know, this is like something that is like, you got to get out the whiteboard and you put you start putting like bullet points on pros and cons, all that.
We can sit down backstage with your whiteboard and my links, and we will work out a solid show on this. I swear to God.
And that's how we got to do it. But what gets me is that, like, in the comments for that, I was raked over the coals, man. People were really upset. And I think what I'm trying to figure out is, as someone who has spent a lot of time learning at the basic point that, like, trying to figure out what happened 1,000 years ago or even 100 years ago is complicated.
Last week, I'm not 100% certain on what happened last week, bro.
It takes a lot of work, and it's never an easy answer, but people just like immediately grab onto an idea and they'll hold on to it so hard without bothering to think, like, why am I holding on to that idea? And are the reasons that I'm holding on that hard, like, do it justify this, like, this really tight grip, you know?
Right.
And
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I have one in particular, and I call it my boat people theory. And it would explain why. We'll get to it in After Dark. I got to wrap this up.
For sure.
It has to do with why all the different primary civilizations seem to derive with the basic same mythology package, right? There's a flood, there's a destruction, there's a rebirth, there's a renaissance of people, and we're it. We're the people. There are no other people. It's just us, and everybody else are weird monsters. But we'll get into that in just a minute. Let me do this thing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right.
Tell everybody what's the name of your channel and what you do one last time.
Yeah. Okay. So again, this was Poopy Archeology, and thanks for listening. And thank you, Mr. Sasquatch. Is that the correct title?
That's my father, but yeah, that'll work.
All right. Oh, we'll just go with straight up Sasquatch. It was a lot of fun to talk to you, and thanks for listening.
I'm gonna drop you backstage right quick. I'm gonna do a play out. We're not going anywhere. It's just to give me an editing mark so that I know where to chop things up. But I appreciate you coming in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of Sasquatch Shills. We're going to play out right quick. And just so you know, I love each and every single one of you like a brother and a sister. But as usual, if y'all give me any trouble tonight, I'll run every goddamn one of us out for here.
Sorry. Good news, though. We're going to have to move the party somewhere a little bit more private, but you're all invited. Lorenzo will give you the details. Yeah!
What are the humans doing?
How bad my ticks are? Wind it up! Wind it down! Fuck you, scumbag, glade, head ass, apple, pineapple, bitch.
Any type of Doritos, and I'm kind of sad because all they did was put the crumbs that be at the bottom of the Dorito bag inside a can.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to.
Huh?
Flip it over.
Flip what over?
Flip the phone over.
What are the humans doing?